Hello, my fellow soul gardeners, and welcome now to an AstroXtra. It's come to my attention through many viewers, also many videos on YouTube, many critics in science, about this idea of the progression of the equinox. Now, this comes to that old story from the scientific community that astrology is all BS because today the sun is not in Aries or it's not in Taurus, it's actually in a different sign. That the sun is not actually in the sign that we say it is. Therefore, says the scientific community, astrology is bogus. And I'm here to explain astrology's take on this topic. First of all, they're right. They're right. The sun is not against the Aries constellation when the sun is in Aries. In fact, it's about one sign behind. I think it's in Pisces during Aries. But that is actually an optical illusion. You have to understand astrology. And I think the biggest issue with astrology versus science, from every time I hear scientists talk, they don't understand what astrology is. It's not their fault, but they also haven't gone to any length to actually research it to find out either. They're just very quick to dismiss without any research. You know, at least I read my physics books and listen to and read what the physics theories are before I start giving my opinion. I don't think scientists always do that, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to explain what astrology is. Astrology started in ancient Babylonia, okay? And what happened was these citizens of this ancient city started noticing trends in human behavior, all right? So it's like two guys or two girls and a guy and a girl. I don't know the way it worked in their society, but they're sitting down one day and they turn to one another and go, "You know what, Bob?" If their name was Bob in Babylonia, I don't know. "You know, I've always noticed, every time this year, have you noticed that the babies that are born act like rams? They're always ramming their heads up against things. They're stupid, they're stubborn, they're obstinate. They're always acting like it's their way or the highway, and they grow up to be great warriors. Have you noticed that every time in the spring babies are born that way?" And the Babylonians started to look at the fact that there were patterns in human behavior that happened during certain times. They witnessed behavior first. Now, back in the ancient times, the clock of the universe was the stars. So they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. Every time this year, the babies born do act like little arrogant rams, just like a ram, just like a goat knocking its horns against somebody. What is it with these kids during this time? What time is it anyways? And they looked up in the stars. What time is it? And they saw that the sun was in this particular group of stars. Now, what they did was they took the million stars they saw, they thought of the ram behavior, and they drew a picture of a ram randomly with the dots. Hey, there, those three stars. We're going to call that the ram constellation. Every time the sun is up against that ram constellation, babies are born like this. And they just started watching human behavior and taking notes. And they noticed that human behavior went in these cycles. Every year this time, how do we know it's this time of the year? Because there's that ram constellation, the sun's right by it. They used the stars as a clock, okay? They never said the stars made the kids act like a ram. The kids already acted like rams, and that's when they started to take note. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, here we go. And then every time these kids are born, they're always worried, and they're always swimming in different directions. They're like little fish. Ah, Pisces constellation. And we went around, and we noticed human cycles. Humans live in cycles. I don't know why it is, but every time during this year, certain behaviors are born. Then they started noticing other moving stars, which were planets. And they noticed, hey, every time that moving star is next to the ram, this seems to happen. What's up with that? They just took note. That moving star back then was Venus, or of course Mercury, the ones that are visible by the human eye. And we started taking record. This is what happens every time we see this in the galactic clock. The galactic planets and stars are simply a clock. Why? Because they're on a fixed rotation. And if you think of the planets, it is like the gear of the clocks. Mercury's moving really fast. Venus is not so fast. Pluto's really slow. That's the minute hand. Everything is a big clock in space. The planets are a clock in space. Astrologers are not mystics. We're historians. We look at history. We look at human cycles. And we notice that every time it's this time in the galactic clock, this seems to happen. We know through human history that every 250 years, humanity tends to change all the rules of how it's orchestrated or how it's put together. Every 250 years, we seem to have a weird revolution. Every 250 years. What is that? Well, now that we have telescopes, we're like, Oh, every time the Pluto is in Capricorn, which happens to be every 250 years, for some reason, humanity goes through a revolution every 250. What is it with that? We know that every 86 years, the version of man or man's ego reinvents itself. What is that? Every 86 years, man seems to reinvent what a man is. Oh, lo and behold, every time Uranus is in Aries is every 86 years. The planets are a clock, all right? And we use the planets as an absolute clock that has not changed over centuries. The human calendar has changed. Julius Caesar decided to make a month after him called July, and then his son Augustus decided to make a month after him called August, and that screwed everything up. Man has always been screwing up the calendar all the way back to time, doing whatever man wants to do with it. But the planets have remained the same. It doesn't matter that Aries is 3 stars. It's really about that sector of space of 100 million stars. Aries is just a little mark we put on it so that we can remember that's the same sector of space. And remember, it's not really about that sector of space. It's about where the Earth is in its orbit. Okay? So back in ancient Babylonia, all right, the Earth was right here during Sun in Aries. Now, when the Sun is in Aries, the Earth is in the same spot. The reason why it looks like the Sun is in Pisces is because the Earth is actually wobbling. It's been wobbling. That's the progression of the equinox. The Earth is wobbling from the Big Bang, and so now the Earth is a little bit tilted. So when it goes to the back to the same spot it was back in ancient Babylonia, okay, it actually looks like it's in Pisces, but the Earth is in the same spot. It's the same time in the intergalactic clock, even though the Sun appears to be in a different direction. Think of it this way. If you're driving a car and you come to an intersection, right? You're facing forward, and you look at this intersection, and you look to your left, there's something. You look to your right, there's something. Let's say 2,000 years, because of the wobbling of the Earth or the wobbling of the car, you're back at that intersection. Since the car has wobbled, now on its side, when you look this way, you see a different view. When you look that way, you see a different view. The Earth or the car is at the same intersection. It's the same time in the intergalactic clock. It just has shifted its view. That's why the Sun has progressed into different areas now in astrology. And astrology does not pretend that the planets have some magical, mystical force on us that take away our free will and pull us down ways that we can't control. Not true at all. Astrology believes in complete free will, but astrology can't help but notice that every so often humanity goes through these certain cycles. And what we do is we look at the intergalactic clock, we look at what we've known to happen throughout human history, and we make predictions of what might happen next. I hope this clears up that topic for those of you who are asking. Live, love, be.